Welcome to the Miles Minute. I'm Miles Menard, and I'm joined with a special guest today. I've been lucky to have Mr. Doug TenNapel as a
Oh,
mentor
oh,
in my spiritual life
oh,
and my YouTube political life. Thank you so much for joining me, Doug. How are you?
I'm good. Having a good night. Finished all my work, finished all my videos, so I got a little extra time to goof around.
Good. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, my pleasure. It's I've known you for a long time now. So this is like just hanging out hanging out at my home, you know?
Yeah. So this is the interview was a little impromptu, but um, got some questions for you and wanted to talk about the political atmosphere in our country right now and get your thoughts on it.
Sure.
Get a little bit of your story as well. I guess the first question I want to ask you is how did you get into YouTube? I mean, something for my viewers to learn and something maybe if your viewers watch to also learn.
Um I mean, I got into it because, well, I'm a mass media artist, so I've always been into, television animation, video games, comic books. Those are all mass media because they're printed or distributed widely. So it's all, but those are all weirdly much smaller than YouTube. So when I started doing mass media, there's no such thing as YouTube. Hold on one second. I'm putting this out to all my fans. I just did a community post on my channel, so they should come rushing
Oh,
in.
awesome.
Some. Um, so YouTube is just an even bigger mass media art form than I could ever imagine. Like when I went to college, I wanted to be an animator, get my shows on TV, and now no one wants to put them on TV. Everyone wants to make it on YouTube. YouTube has the world's largest audience. It's the world's largest distributor of content, movies, animation, podcasts, whatever you want to do. So that really what attracted me to it is the size and shape of YouTube. It's perfect for someone like me. So it's kind of a dream come true, a dream that's had some problems, with my channels, but it's overall, I have no complaints.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I can't really believe that your channel that you have now is still up on
Yeah,
YouTube.
I can't either.
I mean, yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it's awesome. Such a blessing to all of us.
Yeah, and
But
it's fun. It's better to YouTube than not. And so I just keep doing it kind of and it'd be different if I didn't get any results. I talked to a lot of friends like you, a lot of up and comers and stuff. And people, they grow at different rates, but in my case it was pretty explosive. And by the way, my channel was dead for 10 years. Like just it didn't do anything because I was just drawing online. Then I started doing politics and it blew up. So I kind of go, do you want to draw for 75 people or do you want to do politics for 50,000 people? And I said, I'll do politics for 50,000. I've had a blog. I used to have a blog, a daily blog back in like 2005, 2003. I was doing daily political blogs. So I've always had a strong opinion about politics, and it was just kind of a natural marriage, and it happens to be something that succeeds. That's all.
yeah, awesome. I want to get your thoughts on what you think about, like I said, our political atmosphere um, now. So I guess my first question would be, how do you think that this election and this election season and this time is different than the past elections? Like with Trump and Hillary and Trump and Joe Biden.
Yeah, I've been around since Reagan and Mondale in 1984, so I've been around a while. I've seen them all. I mean, every election feels like a crisis, but we've never had a culture that was this chaotic. So culture is getting more and more chaotic. So it feels more and more unstable. And our form of government and the democracy and, voting and all that, it feels like a tiny island of stability in the storm. Oddly enough, we think of it as chaos, you know, because everyone's just screaming at the top of their lungs. But everyone is coming to a focal point on November 5th where we will all vote and establish something. So it's actually before the vote that it feels the most chaotic. And then America makes a decision, and then you go down that path. So that's every 4 years of my life. You know, that's what happens. What's different is there's more chaos now than there was in my lifetime, as far as the government doing things I've never seen it do before. Things did get spooky, you know. 1988, we were just coming out of the Cold War between Reagan and Russia, and that was spooky because we really did feel like, you know, a nuke could be coming down on us any day. Um, and so, but seeing the world in three different major conflicts, or two major conflicts and one potential coming down the road with China and Taiwan, um, that is kind of is recent and has not been experienced before. And the other thing is the culture war has expanded so much. So even back in 2008, when Obama won, we saw same-sex marriage come up for the first time, and it was like, holy cow, what are we going to do as a culture? And then you see it just run through everything. And now with the mainstream streaming and expansion of, say, the trans movement, you just go, are we going to do this as a culture? And it's not that Trump is against that stuff, but it's obvious that the Republicans are the conservative, more traditional side, to at least put uh, the brakes on a little bit. But if it's liberals, I mean, it is like floor it, full scale ahead. If you disagree with it, you know, you lose your job, you're going to lose your licensing, you're going to, you know, get fined, all that stuff. So in that sense, culture does weigh in, and that does feel like a lot is at stake. The economy crashing, you know, the economy goes up and down, and the stock market goes up and down. So I know that we're in a bad place in our economy, but you know, the stock market's way up. There's a lot of things, and we're way in debt, insane debt. And both candidates are part of that, though I would say the Democrats much more so than the Republicans. But so the economic stuff, you know, I could cut my salary in half and lose this house and live in a car, and I'd be okay. But being thrown in prison for what rolls around in my heart, in my head, or being fined or losing my job, that I cannot abide.
No, I don't know. I don't really know who would. Um, it, so, how do you think? And media plays a big role in all of this, um,
Yeah.
in what you're doing. Uh, a couple questions. Do you ever have any fear of being so bold on your
Mm-mm.
channel? And then also, um, social media. How does social media add or subtract from the chaos in specifically this election season?
That's hard to tell if it's the chicken or the egg. Did social media cause it, or is it just a reflection of the heart of everybody? Certainly, social media is gas on a fire. I mean, before, if you had an opinion, there was no outlet for you to tell anyone other than your neighbor. You couldn't go and just broadcast it all around the world. So now everyone's a picked scab, everyone's angry, and they're allowed to go online and just spew it all out to the world. And that does multiply chaos, bad manners, sick burns, funny humor. You know, there's a ton of humor out there. Um, the news, uh, uh, the news cycle is just ramped up. You know, every day it's a news story, because that's just stuff's just going out now. It might have taken a while for a story to hit. You know, in America, you go down and buy the paper and read the front page, and it was written yesterday. You know, or the day before, and went through an editor and printed and all that. Now it's just instant. You go on Twitter and it's just like brrr, instant. You know, headline, 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 and more granularity to it. So now you have not just one or two big news stories going on every week. You know, it's every day. there's a tiny, tiny cycle of boo, 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 boo. Now that I believe is more the fault of the 24-hour news channel, which didn't exist before the 90s with CNN and then Fox News. With the 24-hour news cycle, they have to keep news on 24 hours to maintain a channel. So they're dying for any story. So it used to be, you had a nightly news segment. It was every night, almost like a newspaper where the big talking heads would come out and talk. Well, now suddenly it's 24-hour news channel and they're going like, hey, you know, I'm trying to think of an older senator, Mitch McConnell, what do you think of what Chuck Schumer did? And he'll go, oh, well, we did this. They're actually going out and looking to make news headlines now to fill out a 24-hour day on a news channel. So I think that's the biggest thing to ramp it up is they broke down stories 24 hours a day. And that's where Hannity and Combs came, kind of the more of the argument format came out, a lot more debate, a lot more commentary and opinion, which it used to just be like the news would just report the facts. They were these unmovable, Walter Cronkite would report on Vietnam. And he would go, just these are the facts of what happened today. They tried not to give their political opinion. Well, now it's almost all opinion. Now it's like,
yeah, it seems like there's hardly any facts.
Yeah, where's the facts? Where's the cold, hard, unbiased, just state them. Don't try and ramp me up or don't try and shut me down. Just this happened today, this happened today. So that to me, that started, and that's also in the 90s, and you'll know this as a philosophy student, that I know that you've gotten enough philosophy and enough history to know that really postmodernism got popularized in the 90s. So true for me, not for you. Relativism, truth is relative to me and to my opinion, what I feel, more so than an objective truth or an objective fact that's outside of me that I have to go and find. Now it's like my opinion's everything. I don't care what the facts are. I'll tell you what I feel. So that's a big change too. And when you get people angry, right, that's going to be a problem when your compass believes literally that if you feel it, it's true.
I mean, that's how it's been with media, the news coming to us. It's just been all opinion. But even definitions of words have become opinions now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is a woman?
Mm-hmm.
What is a man? What is a cat? Right? I mean, only a cat knows what a cat is.
Right. Now or your kid can be a cat now.
Exactly. And they can have litter box in their school.
Yeah. So that came about, and all of this is the fallout from the early 1900s. So all the philosophy, we're reaping the fruits. There's probably a good side of it that people can express themselves. It's not good, maybe the way that it's done a lot of the time, but most people, they are pretty measured. They still have, most people, they may have, hard opinions, but I kind of like hearing people just talk, in a normal voice and not just go frothing crazy. But about 100 years ago, that's when the kind of the French philosophers, Derrida, Wittgenstein, I think he's out of Germany by the sound of his name, Camus, they believe that words no longer carried meaning, like a fixed meaning. They said, like, words are made up, our definitions are made up, the truth is made up, nothing is fixed. And so if the truth isn't fixed, then suddenly you have this amazing power to move people, to push them with things besides fixed meaning of words. It's all in flux. And now it's a giant Darwinian power grab of the strongest survive. Whatever you can get away with, go take a power grab. And that feeds into some of the Black Lives Matter philosophy of, white privilege, of you're only succeeding because of your privilege and your power that you've been exerting, not your merit or quality or work ethic. And that minorities are only not favored in society or not doing as well because they're on the bottom side of that. So we have to push our power to help them and push the power to help, push these other people down, to be fair, just so you know where kind of the 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 motive is coming from on that. It's really deep in philosophy. It goes way back 100 years, and it took about 95 years before it finally made it to mainstream and got pushed out at the universities in the 80s and in the 90s. So that's new. We're all news pundits now. Now we all have our own channel. If your parents have a Facebook page, that's their media channel. This is a picture of my kid, and this is who I want to vote for, and this is a recipe I did, and I go to church today. You tell people everything you do now, and it's not weird. It's okay. It's like, it's where we are. It's Andy Warhol said, I think it was in the 70s, early 70s, that everyone would get their 15 minutes of fame. And boy, was he prophetic on that. He was, an artist, and he was kind of a mass media artist, talking about the effects of mass media. And people started seeing it coming down the pipe. In the 80s, there was a book by Neil Postman called Amusing Ourselves to Death, where he was just saying, like, the TV has changed society forever, in that we're viewers and consumers now, and the president has to be a good performer of some kind. And you see it now with Trump. He's a performer. Like you were mentioning on the phone with me earlier, that he shows up in a garbage truck today. Where was that at?
That was in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Okay. So in Green
Giving
Bay,
a speech up there.
And that's in reflection to Biden last night, calling us human garbage. Welcome, my human garbage brother. And he shows up and Trump shows up in a garbage truck. It's so good.
It's great.
Brand
brilliant
media and being a good performer, going to McDonald's and stuff. He's amazing. He has that instinct that is weird. It's weird how, and I think he doesn't give a care. And I think there's something attractive about a politician, where we're so used to politicians caring so much and fearing what people will think of them so much, that they cut all the edges off and they just become this homogenized kind of boilerplate. It's like going to visit the principal and they just give you the rules. Trump ain't that. He's a guy, your uncle cussing in the garage, around people, sitting around a car. But so it's not that it's not that he's moral, it's that he's genuine. And to me, that's the thing that makes him stand out as a politician, is you may not like him, but that's him. And every other politician you might like, it may not be who they really are. It probably isn't.
Yeah, I think in a way, Donald Trump really embodies free speech and the idea of free speech. And I think that's why the Democratic Party hates him, because they hate free speech. And they're trying to get rid of it.
Yeah. So why do people hate free speech? Because ugly stuff comes out, or not just ugly, but things you disagree with comes out. And what tools do you have to navigate what you disagree with?
Right. I mean, you think you get in trouble nowadays for telling the truth? Or, that's what you get in trouble now.
Oh, yeah.
Is telling the truth. You think you get in trouble for lying?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can get in trouble for anything now. But the only one that hurts is when you tell the truth and you get punished for it. That one hurts. It doesn't hurt if I tell a lie or if I cuss someone out and I get in trouble. I had that coming. If I tell the truth and I get in trouble, that really gets me mad. And we don't always know what the truth is. It takes a while. It can take a while. There was a time when our country at the Supreme Court said, blacks were 3/5 of a vote, or, you treated them subhuman. Well, it took us 100 years to figure out, no, you can't own them, even if your state says you can. No, you can't. Well, that took a while. And so there has to be some humility just with our history of how any person has been wrong, that you have to kind of respect the other person, not their opinion, but respect the person, that when they disagree with you, you give air to their argument because you might be wrong. And there isn't a lot of that now. There's kind of a lot of people that are, again, they're cocksured going, I know how I feel, and that's all I need to know. And all I know is you disagree with how I feel, and I'm going to get you.
Yeah. If you're joining the video, if you're watching, if you have any questions, comment your questions. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the Miles Minute, and subscribe to TenNapel, one of the best conservative channels out there. And comment a question if you have any questions.
Yeah.
I'll pick some good ones, and
So
we'll
for
talk
my
about
audience
them.
who may not know who Miles is, this is the Miles Minute. He's a old friend of mine, and we talk YouTube all the time. We're Christians. We're in the same town. He went to school with my kids, so we know each other for a while back. And he just called and said, "Hey, you want to do a show?" And I said, "Yeah, let's go right now," because this is. So he didn't have time to prepare. But this is what YouTube is. I mean, it's two guys talking. It doesn't get more YouTubey than this.
That's the best.
Yeah.
I love it.
So subscribe to him if you guys have not yet, and do comment, and you do the thumbs up. You guys know what to do.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I'll throw you a softball. What do you think about Kamala Harris?
Oh, there you go. I think she's pretty. I think she's dumb. And when I say dumb, I think actually, and I think Trump said something about this. He goes, "Hey, she has a way about her," was a compliment that he said. He just means that there's something about her. He said she's the last to survive, and that says a lot about her. She, by hook or by crook, she beat out every Democrat to that position.
How?
And well,
How? That
whether even if it's by unfair means, she knows how to do that. And that can't be dismissed entirely. And I think that's how she's survived. She's gotten into lots of positions. You know what I mean? She has a pretty, I don't think she's accomplished anything in her positions, but she's gotten them. That's a skill. It's a social skill. So she has some kind of just like Trump has a gut for marketing, she has a social skill that manages to wrestle all these jobs that she's not qualified for. That's a skill.
I mean, she went from somebody who was, disqualified from everything. Nobody really paid attention to her, liked her, to being the, runner up.
Lowest Democrat of all time this year. That was like 6 months ago. Worst rated Democrat of all time. And now she's tied with Trump. And you know what I mean? I think that's amazing.
It's incredible.
So that'll tell you something about her skill set, and her head. When I say she's dumb, I don't mean in that amazing sense of getting these positions. There's something very street smart and instinctual, where she knows how to laugh her way into things and BS her way through anything and give these amorphous answers. I mean, those are the answers she's been giving her entire career. And no one's laughed her out of the room and said she's a dummy. I don't know how to explain that. I do know that especially women have soft skills, and she's really navigated and really manipulated powerful men to get what she wanted. That's a soft skill, and she's about to pull it out, trying to pull it over on all of America and half the voters. I mean, it's working.
How do you think that how how do you think that they're so close? That Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are so close, or do you actually think that they're as close as it seems?
They are as close as it seems. I do think Trump has a bigger edge maybe than the polls are reflecting, but that might also be wishful thinking. But I think it's a miracle that they're this close. Like, it's bizarre because you see the public popularity of Trump. You do not see the public popularity of Kamala Harris. I mean,
No.
people like Kamala Harris because they hate Trump. I don't
That's the
think
only reason. I mean, whenever I hear anybody say they're voting Kamala Harris, which is a slim number, but they're out there, they say, yes, I'm voting for Kamala Harris, unfortunately. That's what they say.
Yeah.
And they say, I'm voting more because I hate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And there's lots of reasons why people vote, whatever. There's DB, it says, but it took $1 billion to tie her with Trump. Yeah, but still, she's the chick that got $1 billion. Like, I think she raised more than Biden. So how'd that happen? So it could be Trump hatred. Fine. I think that's fair.
And DB's exactly right here when he says also a ton of favorable mainstream media for Kamala and negative reporting on Donald Trump.
And never more positive for Kamala versus Trump, but Republicans have always had negative media and Democrats have always had positive media. They call it baked in, like 5 points, a baked in 5 to 15 points of free in-kind media donations to every Democrat candidate. That is, you'll never know how truly popular or unpopular they are because they've always had, at least for 20 years, because you should have heard what they said about George Bush, in 2000. It was, a media meat grinder. Not as bad as Trump has it, but it was bad and it was pretty blatant. And back then they denied that media was biased. They denied it. They go, oh, you and your, media's really biased, huh? I'm going, yeah, it's pretty clear when you're a conservative Christian. And so I can't explain why they're tied. I do think it says a lot about the American electorate that I have a feeling that this election, let's call America. Oh man, I'm going to sneeze.
Bless you.
Sneezer's high. Excuse me. The American electorate, I have a feeling that only the people that care are drawn out of the public to vote. Because I can't explain why it would be 50-50, almost a near coin toss. But if there's 160 million voters out of a 350 million country, that's like just say half of the country votes. They pulled out the most politically active 150 million. The other people don't even care, right? Or they're underage, they can't vote yet. But so of the 150 million that they pull out to vote, the electorate, 50% of them go for Trump and 50% are at Kamala. That's nuts. That's weird, right? That number doesn't add up. Like, what are the chances, I should say, that two completely different people from two completely different parties would throw into an election, no matter what scandal they have, no matter how dumb or smart they are, no matter what they do, we're split 50-50. That's weird.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right? I just want you to think about those numbers. That of the half of us that vote, you can flip a coin of what our values are.
That's insane.
It shouldn't be this close, and it is. And I don't believe, I think Trump could win in a landslide, but they're still so close, right? They're both spending money. They're both just squeaking. Now, it could also be that it's a self-fulfilling prophecy or a self-organizing blob of voters. Self-organizing, by what I mean is, if you're Kamala Harris's camp, you go, look, we just need 1% more. Okay.
Right.
So we're going to blow $250 million on ads in Pennsylvania, on our ground game in Pennsylvania and Michigan. And so they work, each party is working really hard to take that blob and just pick off 1%. So that's always going to keep it at like 50-50. If there's similar forces and similar amount of power, one side's going to give a little here and the other side's going to take a little of that, and lose a little of that on that. And so they're both always just right at that 50%. They really aren't that interested in getting a broad coalition of getting 80% of the vote or getting 80% of Americans to agree with them. You only need to win by 51%. So they both aim for 51%, spend their money accordingly. And, it's almost like trench warfare, in World War I, where neither side could budge that trench in that no man's land. They couldn't move it because they both just get right up to that trench, and that's what they guard. Not the entire back territory or the whole world or anything. You're just stuck on this no man's land, and so you raise these walls, and when you lose 1%, you go and you shore it up. That's my explanation that's the only explanation I can come up with on a theory of why we're 50-50. It's weird.
I mean, I would think it'd be different because, Trump has such a foundation, and this base of supporters when, like we were
Yeah.
talking about earlier, Kamala Harris, being where she is now, has come out of nowhere. I mean, people just flipped onto her.
Right. So how do you explain that? Okay. Her party did not come from nowhere. She came from nowhere. But you're talking about Democrats that would vote for Biden, who's a zombie. You're talking about Democrats.
It kind of proves the point that she's
who
just a
vote for
cardboard
Kamala,
cutout.
A hoe, a empty-headed hoe. And they'll vote for her with enthusiasm because they're so Democrat. They're not going to do Trump. Trump had a different problem. He had a base of, let's say, 50% of the Republican Party. He had the other 50% of the Republican Party hated him. So he had a lot more work to do in his own party than Kamala did. Kamala's party came, and Kamala doesn't even need to be there. They can swap in Biden. They can swap in Kamala. They can put in a piece of fruit. They'd all show up and just fervently go for her. So she herself is not popular. Trump, with the base, and I think he's grown it way into the Republican Party, have really warmed up to him. And then you see a lot of people in the middle who were of neither party heading toward Trump. So that's where the black males come from. The Latino vote is not responding to Kamala, all the minority stuff. Trump has a real problem with women, especially college-educated women. Like, they're just repulsed by him. They're liberal and they're Democrat. So that's kind of I can't explain any more than that. I can say that Trump's popularity is smaller, but more potent. And Kamala's popularity is broader just because she's not, she's an empty vessel. It's broader, but weaker. And I think the enthusiasm is going to go in Trump's area when you start seeing the work in the battleground states of people go walking out, knocking on doors, registering voters in Pennsylvania and stuff like that, that he's showing pretty solid numbers.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that what the left is doing is just attacking Donald Trump. More than they're even attacking the Republican Party.
Yeah.
So, why do they have to attack Donald Trump instead of attacking, the common sense, right? Or the common sense policies that he stands for and that he says he stands for?
I think they think it's how you win. They don't attack his campaign. They attack him, knowing that he himself is not as popular, let's say. So they're not going to go after his issues. They're going to lose on the issues, the border and the economy and the instability in the world, the wars. They're going to lose on that all day. They do not want to come out and have a campaign on issues. So all they know is get Trump. And then Kamala Harris, she's not running issues either, but I don't even know what they're doing. It's baffling to me. I don't get why she's so popular. All I can say is, the liberal machine and the Democrat machine is very well established. Republicans are only just now this year starting to win the popular vote and outperform in voter registration in the swing states and stuff. So that's new to us. Getting this percentage of the black vote is new. Latino vote, new. I just saw images in Michigan of Muslims coming out and supporting Trump, saying Muslims for Trump. That's new. No Republican ever went after the Muslims in America.
They must be thinking with their brain.
I think thinking people go for Trump. I think feeling people go for Kamala.
Yeah.
It's not, I don't mean dumb. I just mean feeling people. I think Trump hurts people's feelings. I can't deny that. I can't say, well, what about your guy? I just go, yeah, I get it. Trump really hurts people's feelings. Okay.
Yeah. More emotional people go for Kamala Harris. I think it's scary and kind of sad that the best that the Democratic Party can put up there for their party is Kamala Harris. Do you think that it would even matter? Do you think the party would still just run whoever they put up there, like they are Kamala Harris? Like we're talking about, she's just an empty suit.
Yeah, and I don't think they have a deep bench because Democrats do not articulate their position. There's an old saying that Democrats are afraid that you'll find out what they believe, and Republicans are afraid that you won't find out what they believe. And so you have a media that's out lying about Republicans against them and lying about Democrats to cover up for them. I don't see a lot of Democrats articulating, and you see the way they articulate the abortion issue. They go, women's health care. Well, you've already started with a lie. You're already not articulating what happens, what it is. They're just telling you how people feel and, give you some horror stories. They don't want to articulate that position. They don't want to illustrate it. They don't want to, they want ill-informed voters. And
right.
Republicans.
They can't even say what they stand for. They can't say what they stand for because it contradicts itself. Like now they're saying you have to be pro-abortion, can't be pro-choice. Yeah. Because I could have said I'm pro-choice when they said to get the COVID vaccine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm over my body. I don't want to take the vaccine.
Be careful with that. Not on this channel. Be careful with that. We'll move on.
Okay, sounds good.
There's a couple things you're not allowed to say. That's the third rail, and you'll get electrocuted, and that's one of them. So we'll go easy on that.
From that topic, but what I was trying to say was that the Democratic Party will say that they don't want the government to be in control of
my
your body.
My choice. My body, my choice. They're like, no, you're killing people. Okay.
Yeah.
My body, my choice. Well,
I agree with my body, my choice, but another DNA in your body is not your choice.
That's right.
DNAs
that's another
is
person.
Two separate people.
That's another being. That's right. It is factually, scientifically not you.
DB said, don't say the V word.
That's right.
We're not going to talk about the V word at all.
Don't you? No.
We have freedom of speech, but not that much freedom of speech.
Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up. What's your got a final closing statement or question?
I do. Do you think that Donald Trump's going to win?
I do. Only because of the evidence that I see. Now we got hoodwinked the last two times. So both in 2020, we thought for sure, and it wasn't. And then in 2022, the red wave. So in 2020, Biden overpolled, like way beyond overpolled. And he won by just a little bit. So they were wrong on their polls and they were embarrassed. So then they overweighted him for Republicans in the red wave in 2022. And we thought, we're smoking them by the polls. We're going to beat them. And we got whomped. So I'm not sure how much weight goes into polls because you're trying to measure the edges of a blob. You're trying to measure the edges of an amoeba the size of America. And it would not surprise me, right? The margin of error they keep saying is 3%. It wouldn't surprise me if the margin of error was 0 or if the margin of error was 10. That stuff that happens. It's not hard to imagine. And I'm not talking about scandals and conspiracies either. I'm just saying you cannot measure an amoeba the size of America and get accurate results, from a helicopter's point of view. You can't just laser cut it and go, we have exactly half over here and exactly half over here. So there's a lot of ways the polls can go. The thing that gives me confidence in Trump, it's not filling an arena. It's 2 old men in a diner, just across the board. It's 2 black men in a diner. It's 2 Hispanics in a diner. It's 2 gay guys in a diner. It's 2 Democrats that are switching their votes in a diner. And you just don't hear about it going the other way. The enthusiasm and excitement. I think what people are excited about isn't just, oh, I'm MAGA. There's a lot of people that are not MAGA and they don't like Trump as a person. They're excited because they're hurting and suffering in America with jobs. They're terrified of what they see in the border. And they're going, we have one hope, and it is not Kamala. She has not articulated the rescue plan, or it doesn't wash out as a plan that's going to turn things around. So that's what I think people are excited about with Trump. I think they're hurting in where we're at now. And that's a place where you don't want to be going into an election. That's what gives me confidence that Trump's going to win. I haven't seen America hurting like this. And usually that spells they're going to go for a change and not double down on what's going on now.
Like what Donald Trump says, our country is a country in decline.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much. Good word. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to like the video if you're voting for Donald Trump. Subscribe to the Miles Minute and subscribe to Doug TenNapel. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching. Thank you, Doug, for joining me. Appreciate you as always.
Woo, the Miles Minute, everybody.
This is the Miles Minute.